welcome back. We just learned how to use male and female condoms. What do you guys think of that?
It was quite exciting.
Was it fun?
Yes, it was fun because I've never.
Yeah. And do you guys feel like maybe you would feel a little bit more confident if you had to use male and condoms in the future?
Yes, definitely.
So the big thing I want to tell you guys is that practice makes perfect. So I know it seems kind of funny, but we're going to send you guys home with some condoms and lubricant today. Maybe what you want to do is you want to practice. You can practice on your own body, practice on a cucumber, you can practice on a banana, but we really think that to be strong and to be ready, you have to practice. So don't be afraid to practice, okay? Do we have any more questions about using condoms before I talk about relationships a little bit?
So I'm saying we can practice on our partners as well.
So that's completely up to you. If you want to do that and you're ready, then I think you should try to do that.
Where does the lubricant fit in?
Yeah, so you've noticed that the condoms have really nice lubricant on it. We've like used it to moisturize our hands. Best lotion ever, right? Sometimes things might feel a little dry. So the lubricant comes in that maybe you just need to make it a little bit more slippery down there. And why is that important? Because when things are dry, the condom can break. So actually using lubricant not only feels good, but it's also healthier because it protects the condom from breaking. That's a really good question. Do you all have any more questions? I will take any question. No question is too small or too big or too silly. Every question's good. Can I take any more questions from you all?
No.
No?
So sorry.
Yeah.
Can a condom fall off like during sex? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Is that
Say again?
possible? Is it possible for a condom to fall off during sex when you're having sex?
Yeah, it is possible. So remember how we said that the penis has to be hard? So for a male condom, if the penis gets soft, it's possible that the condom could come off during sex. So if that happens, you have to take the condom off, you have to get the penis hard again, and then you have to put a new condom on. With female condoms, sometimes what happens, remember how we talked about when you put the female condom inside the vagina, the heat of the body makes the female condom kind of adhere to the walls of your vagina so that it almost feels like skin. Sometimes that doesn't happen if people don't put the female condom deep enough. And also it helps if it's not like twisted, right? So we also talked about how it's important it's not twisted. And so long as you insert it deep enough and it's not twisted, it'll help that condom to like kind of stick to the walls of your body, and then it probably won't come off. It's very rare that it will come off if that's done correctly. But also the same thing, like if it does come off by accident, it probably will come off when the penis is going in and out. It might come off with the penis, and then you can just you can rinse that condom if the man hasn't put his sperm in there, and you can try it again, or you can use a new one if you have another one lying around. Just remember, though, female condoms can be reused, but not male condoms. Yeah.
Even after ejaculating.
You have to wash it.
Question. I
Yeah.
heard when you take out the condom, you have to use a towel. Like you don't touch it with your hands.
That's not really true. You can, because you're, like, people are worried about, like, the sperm getting on them. So remember when we talked about HIV transmission, we did say that bodily fluids, like blood or vaginal fluid or sperm, can carry HIV. And if you have like a cut on your body, that can infect you. So, I mean, I think like technically you're right. Like you shouldn't try to like put sperm all over your hand in case you have a cut. That's true. I mean, it is true. But do you need a towel? you don't necessarily need a towel. So remember when we were practicing the male condom and we said to hold it with one hand at the tip and try to work it off with the second hand? If you do that carefully enough, you can actually tie it off without ever touching the sperm. And same thing with the female condom. Remember how like the ring sat on the lips? You can slowly take that out and kind of tie it off. So it is possible to do all those things without a towel and still be safe about it.
Okay.
That's something that is actually really good to practice. Those are really, really great questions. You guys are awesome. I love that. I love that. Okay, so I want to now talk a little bit about maybe what our community expects of boys and girls. So I'm going to draw a few figures. All right, so I'm going to make a little list here. I'll just make it right here. Okay, so this is our girl and this is our boy. Okay, so I want to ask you guys, in our community, what are girls told that they cannot do?
Cannot play soccer.
No soccer. So, soccer. What else are girls told that they cannot do?
Date more than one boy. Because they will start
One
putting
boy,
names.
right? Okay, what else are girls told that they cannot do?
Stay out at night.
Late nights.
Stay out.
What else?
You cannot wear trousers.
No pants. Yeah, so that's right. Some other things that we've heard from teens like you about things that girls should not do is that teenage girls who have sex will not be good women. And girls and women can't say no. Did you not hear those things ever
Yes.
before? And then, okay, so let's look over our list. Have we missed anything? Are there other things girls are told that they cannot do?
Not like that.
You guys are doing awesome. Can we turn to boys now? So what does our community tell boys that they cannot do?
Cook.
Cook? What else?
Cry.
Cry? What else?
Whiskets.
What?
The dresses.
Oh, okay, skirts, okay. What else? How about relationships? Anything around relationships that they can do or cannot do? We can also add in what are boys allowed to do, if you want, if that's helpful.
You can't have just one girlfriend, you must have many girlfriends.
Many girlfriends, is that okay for boys? Could it be okay? In some boys?
With their peers.
Yes. So many girls are okay. How about for girls? Would that be okay? Could they have many boys?
No, never.
Okay, never. Okay, that's good. One boy. We talked about that. Okay, what else are boys told about relationships that they can do or cannot do?
A woman cannot ask a man where she is coming from, such questions.
Yeah, so like kind of what have you been up to?
Yeah.
Can a man ask that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. So like you want to push them towards doing relationships. Okay, guys. So let's look at these two lists. Are they the same or different?
Different.
They're different. And just around the topic of like sex, and I can see there's some things about relationships on this column that I just want to pull out. So good girls only have one boy and only when they're ready. Good girls don't say no. Good girls don't stay out late nights. Boys can have many girls. That's okay. They're allowed to ask where girls have been. So that's really interesting, isn't it, guys? Because actually, Girls and boys are the same age, but different things are expected of them. And what's funny about this is that boys and girls are having sex, so one is being told one thing and the other person's being told another thing. And they're kind of opposite, aren't they? So we're talking about this because we know that sometimes you guys get mixed messages. And sometimes you might feel pressured to act like a man or pressured to act like a woman. But actually, sometimes doing those things is really hard. When you're stuck and you feel confused, we want you to think about what works for you. So ask yourself, what are your hopes and dreams? Who do you want to be your true friends and true partners? And what does it mean? Really importantly, what does it mean for you to have somebody who cares about you and who treats you the way you deserve to be treated? Because you're special. We know that. We've been with you for 3 weeks now. We know you're special. So we really want to tell you, sometimes our communities are telling us this, our parents are telling us this, but what matters most is what you think and what you want to do to reach your hopes and dreams. And your relationship and your partner should fit into that whenever and wherever you're ready. That was such a great session. We had a great time together. I'm wondering if you guys are ready to maybe go back and reunite with our families. Is it time for that?
Yes.
All right, great. Okay, so let's just transition. We demonstrated the teen one. I want to go back and demonstrate the parent one that's happening at the same time. So in session 3, module 3, you've just had the teens in their own room. Now we're going to show you what the parents are doing in their room. And that's on page 174. Okay, so I just want to give some background to this session. So teens are in this room, like talking about sex, practicing condoms, and what's happening with parents. Parents are also going to get practicing condoms. Before we do that, we want to recognize that parents can do things in their control that really support their teens in making good decisions around health and relationships. So some of this session is about empowering parents, like talking about as a parent, what are some things that you're doing that's actually helping your teens decide to do healthy behaviors, and what else could you do as a parent to support that? And then we also want to get parents to the point where they recognize that their teenagers are going through these changes of puberty and that it's actually normal for them to be curious. They think that curiosity is naughty, but actually we want to show them that the questions that went into the question box are actually a normal part of being a teenager. And that if those questions aren't asked to them, teenagers will ask those questions to other people who are giving them bad answers. Okay, so that's kind of what this session is about. So let's begin. Hi, parents. It's so great to see you. I'm so glad that we have this time together. Last week, we talked a lot about how to take care of ourselves. Do you guys remember that?
Yes.
What do you guys remember from that session?
Talked about depression.
Yeah, and what were some big things that we talked about that you could do to try to prevent depression? Does anyone remember? Yeah, that's right. That talking actually really helps. And remember what we also learned about the I messages?
Yes.
We can fall back on that if we're feeling stuck, right?
Yes.
So, in our take-home fun this past week, we also, our teen gave us this gift. Can anyone share with me what gift their teen gave them?
Oh, he claimed my room.
Ooh! And then, if I remember correctly, you also were giving praise to them for those gifts, right? What did you say to your son when he cleaned your room?
Yeah, I was so grateful. I kissed him.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
And say thank you.
Oh, that's so wonderful. And tell me, how did he react when you kissed him and told him how proud you were of
Well, you
him?
know how boys are. You ran all around the house. You ran to kiss him.
Yeah, so
He ran around, but he was happy. It was happy. Go on, no, mom.
I love that. So I just want to say how wonderful that is.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I feel like in our communities, our lives are stressful, and sometimes our teens, they act naughty. And it's so easy to say to them, oh, you've been naughty. But sometimes I feel like we sometimes forget to tell them how wonderful they are.
Yes, exactly.
So what you did is something that we call positive parenting. When your teen does something wonderful, don't forget to give them some praise. Don't forget to say, wow, you did such a great job cleaning my room.
Because we
That
shout at them all
is
the time.
wonderful. Can somebody else share another thing? Has anybody ever praised their child for something that they've done well? Can anybody give me an example of that?
We don't normally do it. We only recognize the bad part of our team.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So for those of you that did offer praise, because you each offered praise for the gifts that were given this week, what did you notice anything different about the relationship that you had with your teen this week? Because you gave them this praise, it was really positive. Did you notice any changes in how they kind of were with you this week at dinner or, after school? Did you notice anything?
Yes, I did. My son, my boy has been good. He's in good shape. He's been doing good things because he knows that I'm going to praise him. So
That's
it's
wonderful. So,
Things will be noticed this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know.
So, I think we can translate this kind of excitement that we had. Our teens gave us these gifts, but actually they give us gifts every day. They do
But
actually
we never
do wonderful
notice.
little things every day. We have to look for their gifts. We have to look for their strengths. And when
Not
we see
always
them,
it's only the bad things.
that's
Yeah.
right, that's right. And when we see them, we really have to build them up. We need to build their confidence, and the easy way to do that, it doesn't cost you anything, is to praise them. Say, well done, I'm proud of you, look at what you've done. And it could really go really far in changing your relationship with them. Is that something that you think you guys could do as you go out on with your team?
All the time.
That's great. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to say to you that can really keep our teens healthy is this thing called monitoring. Does anyone know what that word means?
Guiding, observing.
Yeah, it's really
Keeping
great.
track.
So let me give you a little scenario. Let's say that your teen wants to go to a movie with her friend this Saturday night. What is a question that you might ask your teen to just, find out a little bit more about what they're going to be doing that Saturday night with their friend at the movies? What might you ask them?
Who are those friends first?
Yes, exactly.
Where they
Who
stay.
who are those friends? Where are they staying? What else would you ask them?
How will you get there?
How will you get there? Who will you get there with?
I
What time are
drive
you
you.
coming
I always
back?
drive. my
What
car.
time are you coming back? Who's driving you?
Mm.
Oh, you guys
I
are
even
pros.
offer to drive my bus.
Yeah.
You say, "Oh, that's how we drive."
You guys are pros. You don't even need us here. So all these questions that you have, they're awesome. So those are questions, I like to call them checking questions. You're checking in.
Yeah.
You're like, tell me a little bit more about what your plans are.
Yeah.
And what's really funny is that those questions tell your teen two things. First, it tells them that you care. You're like, I want to know what you're up to. And I think the second thing that those questions tell your teen is that you're watching them. So it's a little bit of like, hey, I care about you, and hey, I'm watching you. So that's what we call like parental monitoring and supervision. And of course, we know that good communicators have follow through, right? So look, if you say those things, you should check in with them afterwards. How come you weren't home at 8?
Yeah.
So that follow through is also really important. So remember that sometimes teenagers are teenagers and things don't go as planned. So maybe your daughter said that she would come home at 8 p.m. after you ask, when will you be home? And she doesn't make it. And you are mad. What can we fall back on around communication that we learned that might help? Yeah. Does anyone want to give a little example of that scenario? What might you say using an iMessage with your teen to try to, calm yourself down and to also tell her that you're unhappy she didn't make the 8 o'clock? What would you say? Can anyone give me an example?
Because I like shouting Muslim. So if he said that he will be home at 8 and he's not there at 8,
Yeah.
I relax and I sleep. I sleep because I know if it comes past 9 and I'm still awake, I will beat him. So I sleep him, and then the following day,
Yeah.
when I'm calmed down, I'll
Yeah.
call him and say, "Hey, baby, sit down." Not
Yeah.
even saying baby because I'm upset. I'll call him by his name, and
Yeah.
I'll tell him to sit down, and then I'll tell him like how I feel about what he did last night. Look, Thabo, last night you said you'd be back at 8, but you came back past 9.
Mm.
I am not happy about that
Mm.
because you were out late and it's unsafe.
Yeah.
That means you lied.
Yeah.
So next time text if you're gonna be late.
Yeah.
Give us a reason why you're gonna be delaying with an hour or so.
That's really good.
Yeah.
And do you think you could also, so I loved a couple things about that. One is that you you could tell that you'd be angry if you confronted him the night before, so you gave some time. That's a really good thing. Try not to react in anger. I love the iMessages too. You did that perfectly. Do you think you could also ask Thabo to explain why he was late?
Yeah.
Maybe there was a reason for it. That's really good. So when you're angry, here's some things. It's okay to be angry, but you can still communicate something positive to them that tells them you're angry, but still tells them that you care about them. So I love the example that you gave. Something could have happened to you. I was worried. So that's saying that, hey, what you did was not okay, but I love you. Here's some other examples that parents gave us of things that they would say if they were angry, but they still wanted the teen to know that they cared about them. Even though you were late, you did the right thing. By being safe, I just wish you had told me. Or, I care about you. That's why I want to know when you're home at 8 p.m. Right now, I feel angry, but I want to talk to you about this when we're both more calm. Can we talk about it tomorrow? Okay, so those are some great examples. So now I want to transition a little bit, and I want to talk about teens at this age and the changes that they're going through. I bet you guys have noticed they're just wanting to be more independent. They're wanting to do their own thing. It's hard, right? So I want to talk a little bit about boys and girls of this age. Okay, so this is a little bit silly, but I want you guys to come up here. I'm going to take volunteers. And this is a little silly, but I want you guys to be really good artists. And I want you to come up, and I want you to draw onto these stick figures the bodily changes that happen to kids when they go through puberty. Do we know what we mean by puberty? Their bodies are changing, they're becoming men and women. There are some physical changes that happen to people's bodies when that happens. So I want you guys to go ahead and draw up on there. Yeah, so go ahead and draw whatever you like. Go ahead and draw. I can see we have some great artists. You can both go up there at the same time. Yeah, you can both go up there at the same time. I can see we have some great artists in this group. Yeah, great.
I'm smiling a lot on that stage.
Yeah.
They're doing their own thing.
Don't don't forget to put the bodily changes that happen. Don't forget to draw those.
I don't know, breasts.
Exactly. You want to draw all of those so that we know. Yes.
Those are hands mostly.
Exactly. Is there hair growing anywhere? Yeah, there's hair growing. That's great. Breasts are bigger. Is there facial hair growing?
Hey, not at this age though.
Maybe it's starting.
Yeah, it's too early.
Do women's hips get wider?
Yes.
Maybe periods start? Their bums get bigger?
Hey, not much changes.
Okay, great. Good job, everyone. Woo! We've got some great artists in the group. It's awesome.
Yay.
Okay, so just think, big hand of applause for the artists. And then, do you guys remember, I felt like it was hard to get up there and draw, so do you guys remember our thank yous? Do we want to try out some thank yous for each other? Oh, Inkosi, Sheshe, Dani. Well done. Okay, so because we had some really brave artists, let's ask the rest of the group. So let's just talk, you can shout it out. What are some changes, what are some physical changes that are happening to teenagers as they grow from children to adults? Breasts, testicles and penises are getting bigger. There's hair developing on the face for boys and the underarms and the private parts. Those are a lot of physical changes, right? Oh yeah, what do we call Adam's? We call it Adam's apple. Do you call it Adam's apple? Yeah, I don't know what it's called. Nice. Okay, so guys, I think the parents know this already. It's like their bodies are becoming adults, but their minds aren't there yet, right? It's like their bodies go fast, and their minds are still catching up. But there's a lot going on in teenagers' minds at this stage that they need our support for. So, I want to talk a little bit about teenagers' wants. So let's write that out. So let's call them teenagers' wants and their needs. Okay, so I just want to give some examples so you understand what I mean by this. Okay, so let's first think about a baby. A baby might want to stay awake, but the baby needs a nap to grow. Let's give another example. A 4-year-old might want to cross the street by themselves, but they need to hold your hand for safety. A 13-year-old might not want a curfew, but they need to learn how to have a curfew to gain responsibility, right? It's like you have a curfew of 8 p.m. and you're independent, you can go out, but you're responsible for coming back at 8 p.m. So I want you guys to think about teenagers. I want you to think about your teen, and I want you to think about what they want and what they need. Can you guys give me some examples first of what a teenager might want?
They want boyfriends
Yes,
and girlfriends.
right? But they might need some guidance,
Yes.
right? Because they might never have had boyfriends or girlfriends before, right? They might need models and guidance, right? Okay, that's a great example. What are some other things that they might want versus need?
They want clothes, yeah.
That's really good. Maybe we should be more specific. They want like branded clothes,
Yeah.
but they just need clean clothes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's really good. What else do teenagers want, but instead we didn't give them something that they need?
You want to go out late Acting.
Yeah, I love that. So teenagers want to experiment.
Exactly.
They want to like try a bunch of different things,
Yes.
and not all of them are safe.
Yeah.
So they need help
Support.
being safe, right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
Monitoring.
exactly, that's exactly right. So it's really great. So I want to just stand back and give you a few more examples that we came up with some really good ones, but I want to give you some other things to think about. Okay. So teenagers not only want to experiment with like things like drinking and smoking, but they don't know that that's not safe for them. It also extends, or that applies to relationships. So teenagers want to try some things, try to have a boyfriend or girlfriend, but they might not know how to pick the right partner.
Yeah.
Maybe they need your help in thinking about who is a partner that will treat them the way that you want them to be treated. Maybe teenagers want to learn how to kiss someone for the first time, but they don't know how to say no to other things that they're not ready for without some help from you. Maybe all they want to do is kiss, but maybe because they start that, they don't know how to say no to all the other things that could follow. Maybe they need your help for that. Maybe teenagers want someone to love them, but that person is pinching them or twisting their arm. Maybe they need your help in talking about how to get out from a relationship that's not healthy.
Yeah.
Because you don't want your beautiful son and daughter to be with somebody who hurts them, right? So I think what I want us to think about is that we know our kids are going through these changes that make them adults, and that makes them want certain things, but they need our help in becoming actual adults, right?
Yeah.
That's right. So what I want you to think about is that as teens are going through these changes with their bodies and their minds and their friends and their relationships, there's actually a lot of questions they want to ask you, and they might be afraid to ask you. They're afraid that you're going to call them naughty. They're afraid that you're going to shout at them. But actually, they need you. They need your support to become the adults that you want them to become. They need you to build their confidence. So remember, we gave them those praises. That builds their confidence. Remember that when they're asking questions to you, sometimes it's not because they're being naughty. It's because they trust you. They believe that you're the person that will protect them, that will guide them. That's why they're asking those questions to you, not because they're naughty. So, puberty is normal. It's healthy. And we need to support them in that process, and it can be scary for us too, right? I feel like sometimes I don't know what to say to my son when he's asking me questions about girlfriends. I'm afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm afraid that maybe if I tell him something, he's going to go and try it. I'm afraid of all those things. But what we want to say to you is that you can practice it. You can think about what you might say. You can practice it with your friends. You can practice it with us here so that when the time comes, you feel ready for it. And also remember that good communicators, if you're not ready, you can say, you know what, I'm not sure about that. Can I come back to you tomorrow? So you don't have to answer right there, right? It's okay to say, I want to be sure and I'm telling you the right thing. Let me come back to you tomorrow. So I know that a lot of parents think that if you tell them about sex, you're inviting them to have sex. But also, these teens need help. When it comes time for them, whenever that is, we want them to be ready. We want them to achieve those hopes and dreams. And part of that is learning how to be healthy, learning how to find good partners, learning how to navigate puberty, using you as a role model for them so that they know what to do when they get to that stage. So I wanted to talk about that question box. Do you remember when we started today? We saw all our teenagers put questions in the question box. Did you guys see they had a lot of questions? So I want to ask you guys, if we as parents are not answering those questions, where do you think teens are going for information? About relationships, puberty, sex, where are they going for it?
Friends,
Friends, okay. Where else?
media.
Media, porno, internet,
Yes.
where else?
The neighbors.
Neighbors.
Yes,
Sometimes they
neighbors.
spy on them through a spy hole. Yes, that's right. People. Where else? Movies, TVs, we said media.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere else that they might be learning? Maybe sisters, brothers, older sisters, brothers, cousins? So, would you rather have your teen go find out about relationships from porno and movies, or would you rather have them find out from someone like you or someone that you trust?
Someone like me.
Yeah. Why? Why? Tell me why you say that.
So that I can guide them.
Yeah.
And make
Yeah.
sure they're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because,
Because
Yeah.
the friends are same age, so they'll just tell them that specific thing. And
Yeah.
they can even go to sugar dates and ask them.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. I feel like a lot of the people that you said, or the places that you said, they're actually places that are not trustworthy. I feel like they would get information that maybe would not be useful to them. That they would become adults that are not the adults that we want, right? So there are some good reasons for why you might want to talk to your teens. But remember, it's not up to us. It's up to you. We believe in you. You will do that at the right time and in the right way. We want you to feel empowered to do that. So there are some reasons that parents shared with us for why they should talk to teens. They think that they're the ones that should tell them because they have the best information. They care about their children. They want their children to be healthy. What better person to guide them than you? So here's one thing that a parent said. It's okay for me to talk to my child about relationships and about sex because if I don't, somebody else will. And that person will give my child the wrong information. I think now times are changing because we can see that without giving children information, they go out and get the wrong information from friends and from other people and they do the wrong things. And here's one other thing that a parent said. There's not a single parent that would love to see his or her child suffer from HIV. No parent wants their child to suffer. No parent wants them to see them go through that. So it's better to talk about it early, to break the silence early. Do you feel like that? Do you guys feel like that's how you feel? Yeah. So if we want to talk to our kids, it's okay for that to be uncomfortable. I just want to put that out there. Just because you believe in it doesn't mean that it'll feel easy. So it's okay if it's a little uncomfortable, and it's okay to practice to try to get yourself ready for that. It's okay to plan. So maybe you think like, I want to do that on the Saturday when I've had time to relax after work, when I've thought about it, had a good night rest. So maybe you want to think about the right time and the right place, and you want to practice to get ready for that. So I want to first, we're in this room together. I want you guys to tell me, what are the scariest questions that your teen could ask you about sex? What are you most scared of that they would ask you? Examples?
Maybe asking about my own sexual life.
Yeah, so they may be like, when did you have sex for the first time? Really good. What are some other questions that people, it might not be about sex, it could be about puberty, relationships. What else might they ask you? When am I old enough to date? They might. Please tell me. Sorry. Yes, when's the right time to have sex? Other questions?
How many guys have I ever slept with?
Yes.
before?
How about this? Can you tell me about birth control? How about questions questions like this, do you think they would ask you things like, how do I protect my boyfriend from HIV? Some teens are living with HIV, right? So, you know what's so interesting about these questions is that they're not just about sex. They're about health, they're about relationships, they're about changes to their body. All those things are really about sex. You telling your teen how to choose a good partner, that's preparing them, right? You telling your teen to not stand for violence, that's preparing them. That's all about relationships and healthy lives. All right, so I want to take one of these questions that you gave us, the questions that you're most afraid of answering, and I want to ask the group, how might you answer this question? Let's give an example. Okay, so basically you take them through, like this is a hard question. How might you answer this? So they're building confidence, building confidence. This is how we would answer. Okay, so maybe what you guys want to think about is using your family meeting to talk about this. We would be there to help you, and that would be okay. So I want to do a role play. I want you to pick one of these topics on the board. We can talk about puberty, we can talk about circumcision, we can talk about sex, we can talk about violence. Let's pick one together as a group. Which one do we want to pick? Violence?
Can you give us a...
Yeah, maybe examples. So the topics that you guys came up with was puberty, relationships, when to use birth control, how many boyfriends you've had. Should we pick one of those to practice on?
Relationships, no?
Okay, so can I have one volunteer that would act as the team? And one volunteer that would act as a parent. Do we have any volunteers?
Yes, we have that.
Okay, great. So you bring them up, and then you get one person to role play the teen, and one person to role play the parent, and to work them through. And sometimes it's a disaster, and that's cool. And you say to other parents, this is hard. What might you say to help?
Yeah.
Like, what else would you say that would work? And you get them to brainstorm, brainstorm, brainstorm. Okay, so then you do that one more time. And you're like, okay, good. And then you say to them, so guys, let me give you some successful tips. You did really great. One tip is you have to have many talks. One big talk about sex or relationships doesn't work. You have to talk about it with them when they're 13, when it's appropriate, however it's appropriate. Maybe you talk about puberty. Maybe that's all you talk about. You have to talk with them when they're 14. Maybe it's just about relationships. Who do you want to be a caring partner? You have to talk to them many times. One talk does not work. The second thing is choose a time that works for you. Think about when you're relaxed. Think about when you're prepared. Say to them, I'd like to talk to you this Saturday morning. Let's have tea together. The third thing is that it's okay to be uncomfortable, but you're the leader of the family. Sometimes being the leader means doing hard things. Sometimes being the leader means feeling a little uncomfortable, but if you do it, that's your contribution to the family, right? You're preparing them. The fourth thing is stay true to your values. We're not here to tell you what to say. You have to communicate to your teen what you believe in. And then finally, if you don't know what to say, it always helps to relate whatever you're saying to your teenager's hopes and dreams. I know you shared earlier that your son wants to be a doctor. So if you're stuck, try to relate what you're trying to communicate to his hope of becoming a doctor. Okay, so I wanted to also give you guys some tips. Sometimes it's really hard to figure out how to talk about these things if your teen doesn't want to ask you. But you want to know how they're doing, right? So there are some ways to talk about things, to introduce it. So sometimes you might see a movie on TV and people are kissing. And you could take that time to say, hey, have you ever done that? Or hey. Exactly. Why are you closing your eyes? What are some other things that are going around us that could give us some chances to talk to them? What are some other things?
Maybe even.
I don't know. But maybe if you were sitting with your friends and probably one of your friends was talking about a teenager or his teenagers
Yes.
and stuff, maybe you can tell her that, yo, I was sitting with Mambanbani.
Totally perfect. She was saying this about her teen.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
That's perfect.
Mm.
Amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's really good. Sometimes our teens are with their friends and you hear them talking about stuff. You can use that chance to talk to them too. Say like, I heard you talking to your friend about that. Let's talk about that. So sometimes when you don't know how to introduce the issue, there's lots of stuff going around us that we can use as a way to open the door, right? Okay, so I want to give you guys some examples. So when you do talk to your teen, you want to do it in a way that's detailed. So let me give you an example. So a parent gave us this example. If you give advice but it's not detailed enough, children are confused. So this parent said, if you say to the children, don't sleep with that boy, they don't know sleep, like what? Maybe you said sleep, share the same bed. They don't understand. You should instead say, a parent said this, don't let the boy penetrate your vagina because you're going to get HIV or you're going to get pregnant. We need to give messages more directly. Here's another example that a parent said to us. A son came to the house with a condom and he put it on the bed. I asked him about it and he said, no, it's a condom. These people at school are teaching us about condoms. They said if you listen carefully about how a condom works, you'll know how to use it and you'll be protected. And he just put that condom on the bed and he thought that was okay. So you're laughing. I see you're laughing, Mama, but this is real, right? So what we want to introduce next is we want to show you guys how to use condoms. Now, I want to give you some information on why we're doing this. We feel as though you're the leaders of the family. If your teen asks about how to use a condom, you need to show them how to do that. Or you need to know how to use it, right? So parents often laugh at this, but it's really fun. And we're just here together, just as adults. The teens aren't with us, we can feel safe. Okay, and then you take them through the condom practice, right? And I will say that that's a little bit more uncomfortable for parents, but surprisingly, some parents really loved it. So Muleki Bulawa said that often it was like the Go-Go's who thought it was really hilarious. And they were really into it. So you kind of take them through the whole thing. And then do you guys remember we did the boys and girls exercise?
Yes.
We do that with the parents too. And we say what messages are you giving your boys versus your girls? And how does that confuse them about relationships? And then we get them to talk about the family meeting worksheet. So we bring them to their session 3 and we say, let's prepare for that. Okay, great. Lauren, if we can turn it off.